Boris Johnson will trigger no-deal Brexit if the EU don't offer the UK a trade deal. Now, before we start today's video, I want to say a huge thank you to all of you for supporting this channel so far. This weekend, we finally reached 90,000 subscribers. It's actually already gone above 90, it's almost 91,000, so thank you again. Let's see if we can reach 100,000 subscribers by Christmas, by January. And as I promised before, if that happens, then I'm going to throw a big event, a big party with everyone, and I'll invite all of you. Obviously, limited capacity, so I might do a few regional ones, starting with London, and then we'll go to the north too. So if you know anyone, if you have any friends, make sure you share this channel, share the video so that they can join as well. Now, Boris Johnson, when the election campaign started for the Conservatives, it wasn't a great start. They made a few mistakes, a few gaffes. One of them was that one of the ministers came out and said that no deal Brexit is off the table. And everybody basically thought, wait, what does this actually mean? Until the government had to clarify what they actually meant. And Boris Johnson, again, this weekend came out and clarified the position. What they meant was there is a difference between a withdrawal deal and a trade deal, obviously. When it comes to the withdrawal deal, because there is already a withdrawal deal agreement in place, they've said that when it comes to the December and January timetable, they're not going to go for no deal. They're just going to approve the withdrawal agreement in Parliament and pass that. At the same time, when it comes to the next stage, which is 2020, and the deadline is December 2020, Boris Johnson has clarified that he would not extend that period. That means both sides have until December 2020 to come up with a free trade agreement so that the UK will be out of the single market, obviously out of customs union and everything else, but we'll have a Canada-style trade deal. And this weekend, Boris Johnson also confirmed that if the EU do not agree to a trade deal by December 2020, then he'll just walk away. He'll just trigger no deal Brexit and he wouldn't stay in the withdrawal agreement, the transition period. The Prime Minister said that there was no reason to dismantle preparations for a no-deal Brexit, despite previously suggesting that such an outcome was off the table because he had an oven-ready deal he would push through Parliament if he wins a working majority on the 12th of December. Boris Johnson has secured the Brexit deal with the EU, obviously, but once the UK leaves the bloc, it will enter into a period of transition until December 2020, and during which period the negotiations will happen for a long-term trade deal between both sides. Boris has pledged not to extend the transition period, which means if there is no trade deal by the end of 2020, the UK will be out on WTO terms. Boris Johnson made this commitment at a press conference where he was joined by Michael Gove, but also the former Labour MP Gislo Stewart, who has also recently defected and is now fully backing Boris Johnson in this election. Now, it's always good to clarify the difference between the withdrawal deal and the long-term trade deal. So when Boris talks about this oven-ready deal, he's talking about this 2020 transition period. That doesn't mean that this WTO terms and the no deal Brexit / trade deal Brexit is actually off the table, because that is the outcome anyway. We're going to end up either having a trade deal, brilliant, or we'll go on WTO terms, like any other country. Now, this news has sent huge panic waves to Brussels and the European Union. The latest YouGov poll that suggests that the Tories will get a huge majority in the election had made the European Union to start panicking. The EU are panicking about the risks of a Boris Johnson majority following the December election, with concern in Brussels that an overwhelming victory could spark a British fight back against EU demands. Now, according to Professor Fattas, Brussels is wary of a huge Tory majority in the upcoming elections because they know that that means Boris Johnson could actually defy Brussels' orders and demands. And this is not good for the EU's strategy. And the leadership in Brussels are also aware that the current polls strongly point to a huge majority for the Conservatives, who are campaigning to get Brexit done. Now, all this, once again, showing the EU's true face. Since 2016, the European Union officials have been going around pretending to be good public civil servants in Brussels and bureaucrats who just want to basically follow what the public want, including the EU referendum result. They said, fine, we're going to help you to get Brexit done. But in reality, they don't really want Brexit. Even right now, with this oven-ready deal, they want to essentially work with a parliament, a hung parliament or a Corbyn government, so that they could keep the UK inside this limbo, the transition period, because it is up to the government if they want to extend the transition or not. Now, the Conservatives have said, and this has been supported by the Brexit Party and Nigel Farage, to not extend it, which means if the Tories get a majority, then obviously December 2020 is the deadline. But Brussels never thought this would happen. They never thought that we could be in a situation where the Conservatives are actually close to getting a majority. They were hoping for another hung parliament and another coalition or some sort of weird limbo in Westminster, but this is not looking good for Brussels. Now, Boris Johnson has also sent strong signals, not just to the EU, but also to America when it comes to trade deals. He has clarified once again that obviously the NHS is not on the table, and to be fair, Donald Trump and America don't really want the NHS either. There's been no suggestions that they want it. You can't even buy the NHS. How many times do we have to say this? But for the sake of PR and this election, he had to go on LBC and clarify this.
First of all, the NHS is not for sale, and under no circumstances will this government or any Conservative government do anything to put the NHS up for negotiation in trade talks or privatisation, anything like that. And I can tell you, were the United States or any other country to insist on that as a condition of talks, we would simply walk out. And secondly, it is perfectly obvious, I think, to the people of this country that if any government was so mad as to go down that route, then they would never be re-elected. It is obvious to me that the reason why this keeps coming up, Nick, is because the Labour Party is absolutely determined to have a distraction at this election, because the key question at this election is how do we move this country forward? How do we get Brexit done and move on? And at the heart of that issue, the Labour Party has a giant void.
Now, hopefully this means that the Tory majority government will stay strong, not just up against the EU, but also America and other international partners when we are negotiating a trade deal. Obviously, we know that America don't really want our healthcare system, but in any area, if they're playing hardball, we have to be ready to walk away, just like what we're doing with the EU. So we don't want to create any double standards. So this is a good approach by Boris Johnson. Now, he has to get a majority, and last night there were a couple of polls that showed that the gap is actually narrowing between Labour and the Tories, and especially in seats where the Brexit Party are standing, because there was this mentality, it's the same thing going around since 2010, 2015, 2017, that only certain Northern Labour seats will vote UKIP or Brexit Party, but actually in reality in 2017, Labour votes actually directly converted to the Conservatives, and people said, oh, you will never be able to get the traditional Labour vote in the north to actually go directly to the Conservatives, but it happened. It's happened before. And so right now there are a number of seats that the Brexit Party will be splitting the Tory votes, which means there will be more seats that are going to the Socialists. This includes Hartlepool, where the Brexit Party chairman, Richard Tice, is standing. Tice is hoping to capitalise on the anti-EU sentiment in the constituency that voted to leave by 70% in 2016, and he hopes to win this seat from Labour. But Joe Armitage, a parliamentary procedure expert, has predicted that by running in the Leave area, Mr Tice is actually ensuring that Labour will retain the seat. He also hit out at Nigel Farage for not bowing out with grace and risking a Tory majority by standing Brexit Party candidates in battleground seats. But we've talked about this a lot on this channel when it comes to this Brexit Party Tory votes. There are some seats that actually the Brexit Party standing is helping the Tories because they are taking some of the Labour votes. And there are some seats that the Brexit Party are not standing because there is already a Conservative MP or a candidate. and actually that's damaging the Tories, because the Brexit Party could have taken some of the Labour votes. At the same time, it's case by case. There are certain target seats that the Brexit Party standing is actually damaging the Tories. So you have to go case by case. But it's too late now because the nominations are closed. But we continue to report on this every day. So as I want to say a huge thank you again to all of you for supporting us, as we have reached now over 90,000 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed, if you're a new viewer, make sure that you subscribe and click on the bell next to it so you get notified when I release my daily videos. And with a lot of demands, I brought back the most popular t-shirt designs that we have on our merchandise page. The Brexit t-shirts, deal with it. You could find this and also other designs. The link is in the description. Make sure you check out all the merchandise that we have. If you want to follow me on social media to stay up to date, make sure that you can find the Twitter and Instagram handles on the screen. As always, I'm Tousi, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with a new video.